All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Firestone Walker Brewing Company, and they're headquartered in Paso, Robles, California, and this is their Mind Haze, the Brain Melter variant. So this is a hazy Imperial IPA that comes in at 8.5% alcohol by volume, 35 IBUs at the time of review. This can is just over 2 months old. I want to give a huge thanks and shout out once again to Firestone Walker, more specifically Sean from Firestone Walker for this beer, so big thanks to him. If you've been following the channel over the past month and a half, you know that a couple months back, they reached out, wanted to know if I'd sample some of their beers. I told them, of course, as long as you're cool with honest reviews, they were, and they have hooked me up with some cool beers, including an entire, the entire Mind Haze Variety 12-pack that included 3 different beers, 4 of each. So you get the base Mind Haze, which I reviewed last week, this, and then the Mind Haze Cosmic Crusher, which is, I think, a 9.5% hazy Imperial IPA. So I do enjoy the regular Mind Haze. I don't think it's mind-blowing. I gave it a 3.95 out of 4. Good, shelfy, hazy IPA. Better than I remember because I re-reviewed it. However, this one has intrigued me. 8.5%, 35 IBUs. This one is brewed with Mosaic, Citra, and Vic Secret. I was actually a little bit hesitant with this one because I thought this one might be in the realm of like New Belgium's Voodoo Ranger series where they brew, a big 9.5% Imperial IPA, and then they use natural flavors. Same thing with Southern Tier and Victory and brews like that. This does not have any natural flavors in it. Just Mosaic, Citra, Vic Secret. It's a 9.5% hazy Imperial IPA. I hope it's delicious, and I do hope it's better than the base Mind Haze, even though I don't find that one to be bad, but I've been duffing a lot of these pours the last couple days. I don't know what's going on. It's just like I have forgotten how to pour beer. I mean, I never was good at it, but at least I didn't spill it this time, but it was close. Very, very close. Anyway, how does this look? Well, I would say this. This looks a little bit darker than the regular Mind Haze. So in the hashtag proper glassware, obviously it looks fantastic, but it has that darker, like honey orange color, more vibrant in person. So looking at the camera, it's more dull. In person, I would say mine kind of more looks maybe a little bit like that. Yeah, like that. A little bit more. See how that's vibrant? A little bit more vibrant now. Even though it's not really, I don't know why is it not? I guess, so, yeah, just a little bit more vibrant in person, but still more of an orange. 2 fingers of a soap sudsy, bright white looking head, murky, turbid, the whole 9, kind of what you expect out of a beer like this. Let's get a nose. Okay, so I'm getting more of like a generic, like kind of a vanilla. Now these cans are a little bit older. The Mind Haze was just under 2 months. This is just over 2 months. That's my fault. I was out of commission for a couple weeks with a bad cold. I couldn't smell for like 8 or 9 days straight. Also could not taste. So I would have reviewed these probably like 5-6 weeks old, as is though. It kind of ends up being a little bit over 2 months. It has that kind of like vanilla pop that you sometimes get with beers that have lactose or vanilla in it, where it kind of almost gives it a creamsicle vibe. But I'm getting a lot of like sweet tropical. I would say sweet, like a over-ripened pineapple. Maybe a little bit of a mixed berry. Underlying like grapefruit, orange, juicy. Doesn't smell like 8.5%. But this is kind of one of those, and I know this sounds bad, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but a generic hazy Imperial / double IPA that has your tropical and stone fruit goodness. It smells juicy. Smells like it's going to be sweeter. But there's not a lot of like depth or complexity to the beer, unfortunately. Like I'm not getting really any kind of like pine or dank, kind of like resin quality. But it doesn't smell bad. I mean, if you're a haze bro or you love juicy IPAs or juicy Imperial IPAs, like this is right in your wheelhouse. But the beauty is it doesn't smell artificial. Not at all. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again to Firestone Walker and Sean. Oh, let me go back in. So yeah, this is not to me in the realm of those Voodoo Rangers, the I forget the Southern Tier that came out like the 2X crazy juicy whatever. that have the natural flavors, and this doesn't taste like that. What this tastes like is like a ramped up version of Mind Haze, but a little bit more juicy, a little sweeter, and a little bit more on the nose for a hazy, which again, juiciness, fruitiness, where Mind Haze still has some like a little bit of like an old school vibe to it to some degree. This is like that new school, just give them all the tropical and stone fruit goodness. Another sip. Eyes like higher side of medium. Nice heftier, 8.5% appropriate, maybe a bit thin for some of you out there, but 8.5% I think it's fine. The mouthfeel is also pretty good. Mild to moderately carbonated, more approaching moderate, but it has a nice smoothness on the second half of the palate. There's a touch of like creaminess on the sides of the tongue. It's not like overly creamy, but I think body and mouthfeel are good for this beer, and I'm okay with that. And also, as we always like to show, the glass lacing is phenomenal. Another sip. The taste. I will say, what I said about the complexity in the nose isn't necessarily, it didn't necessarily carry over to the taste. In the taste, there is a complexity, but there's a complexity to the fruit character. Much like the base Mind Haze, which is fresh in my memory because I reviewed it in the past week, it has that freshly squeezed orange juice vibe I got in that beer, in here. But then I get like a mixture of like, if you get one of those combination fruit juices, so I would say like if you combine orange, grapefruit, and like mango juice, you combine those three, that's what this tastes like, a carbonated juice blend. After that, through, about halfway through the palate, I get a little bit of like a overripened pineapple hits as well. Touch of that red berry. And then the finish is very dry. This is pretty dry. I'd say close to bone dry. Firmly dry at the very least, but almost bone dry. A very mild bitterness, much like the Mind Haze, doesn't have a lot of bitterness, but again, stylistically, it's correct. I like personally more bitterness. This doesn't have it. And there's a little bit of like a, more of like an earthy kind of like almost citrus rind as far as like the hop character goes on the finish. A lot of times on the finish for me, when the bitterness hits and the hop bitterness hits, it's usually, resinous pine, floral, grassy, this, that, or the other. This has more of like an earthy kind of citrus rind or citrus pith to it. So it's nice. It is very dry actually sitting here talking to you. My tongue is devoid of really any saliva. So while this isn't overly complex across the board, I think there's a nice complexity to the fruit flavors. It's 8.5%, maybe a very slight warm in my chest, nothing on the palate. Like this doesn't drink much bigger from an ABV perspective than the base Mind Haze. It's almost 2% higher. So that's impressive. I think this is fucking pretty solid. It's if I gave Mind Haze a 9.5 and I said this is good, or that's good, I would say this is a little bit better than that. I would still like a little bit more complexity to the hop character as a whole, not just, basically juicy, fruity, and that's it. Also, the vanilla really didn't carry over. If anything, I'm getting like a touch of like a cotton candy, almost like yeasty kind of thing going on. So the pros to this one. Body and mouthfeel are really nice for what it is. Hides the alcohol extremely well. If you love the juicy, fruity hazies and New England styles of the world in double IPA form, this would be for you. If you want a little bit more complexity from the hops that bring other notes of just outside of that juicy, fruity realm, you might not care for it as much. I'm kind of in between where I think for what they're going for, this is really nice, but personally, it's not like amazing, but I still think it's good, and I think it's slightly better than base Mind Haze. It's an Imperial, I kind of expected it to be, so I'm going to have to give this appropriate rating. I think it's pretty well balanced. That dryness really helps balance out the sweet, juicy, fruity goodness at the forefront. Good body and mouthfeel, hides the alcohol well. I'm going to give Mind Haze, the Brain Melter variant from Firestone Walker, a high 4 out of 5. I go 4.05. I think that's a fair score for what I'm drinking in this glass right here. And and I'm curious about that Cosmic Crusher. It's 9.5%. So we'll see how that ends up. Now, price point availability, I don't think they sell just like 6 packs or 12 packs of this. I could be wrong, but I did look up the Variety 12 pack that they sent me of the Mind Haze beers. About $20 a 12 pack, somewhere in that realm. Maybe 18 if you're in a place where it's a little bit cheaper, maybe 22, a little bit more expensive. I will say now, as far as the availability goes, I used to say, and I even said this in the last Mind Haze review, where I said, we're starting to get drips and drabs of them again because Firestone Walker hasn't been, prominent here in the New York State as a whole. However, since I reviewed Mind Haze about a week ago, it was like, 6 days ago, you're probably going to see these a little bit further apart, but whatever the case may be, I reviewed that beer about a week ago, and I said that, brewed and bottled, my local bottle shop, my favorite one, got Union Jack, Wandering Dawn, and Peeville Pills. Well, other places in the area, other beer stores, have not only gotten those beers, but they also got the Mind Haze variety 12 pack and the IPA variety 12 pack that has like, I forget all the beers in there, but they're all 4 IPAs. So we're starting to see Firestone Walker again outside of just like Parabola and the Anniversary and Sukava, which makes me happy because I like Firestone Walker. So if you're in New York State, specifically, and you watch this review and you haven't seen Firestone Walker stuff, check your local bottle shop, check your local grocery store, check your local beer store, and you might see not only this beer, but others from them. I picked up a can of Union Jack and a can of the Wandering Dawn, which I'll review after I do the Cosmic Crusher. I can't wait to try out Union Jack. It's been many years. And yeah, and also Firestone Walker, I'm pretty sure has a beer finder on their website, so if you want to check out their beer that way. Anyway, if you've had this one before, post comment section, what'd you think about this in comparison to the base Mind Haze? Should I be looking forward to that Cosmic Crusher a little bit more than I am right now? I will say I'm just happy they didn't go the natural flavor route and kind of ruin the beer like I feel like a lot of the Voodoo Rangers are in some of those Southern Tier beers, so kudos to Firestone Walker on that. Pretty good beer. So appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. Like I said, if you had this one, comment section. Thanks again to Sean and Firestone Walker for the beer. Appreciate it. To the next one. Cheers.